Vontaze Burfict was fined or suspended for illegal hits 15 times in a single decade, more than any player in NFL history. The league collected $5.3 million and put him back on the field.
A lot of people say that, oh, he's a dirty player, he does this, he does that, and there's a fine line in football, and I think that I'm right at that line.
This isn't about whether Burfict was dirty. It's about what the NFL needed him to be. By the end, we'll answer one question. If the system punishes violence with fines and profits from it, who is actually responsible? Vontaze Burfict was the most dominant linebacker prospect in the country. But to understand how the NFL got a hold of him, you have to go back to where it all started. He grew up in Corona, California, a suburb of East Los Angeles, where his mother moved the family after leaving South Central LA looking for something safer. His father was arrested when Burfict was just a few months old and never came back. So from the very beginning, it was just him and his mother, navigating a neighborhood that didn't leave much room for mistakes. That kind of pressure does something to a kid. It hardens you. And for Burfict, football became the one thing that made sense. The one place where being physical and aggressive and the hardest person on the field wasn't a problem. It was the point. And he was built for it from the start. By his senior season at Centennial High School, he had 130 tackles and was a first-team All-American selection. Rivals ranked him the number 9 overall prospect in the 2009 class, the first linebacker in the national top 10 since 2006. Every major program in the country came calling. He committed to USC first, then decommitted and flipped to Arizona State on signing day. He was a player already shaped by the sport before he ever turned 18. At Arizona State, the coaches got exactly what they recruited. He played the way college football rewarded physicality at the point of attack, aggressive through contact and punishing on every single snap. He won Pac-10 Defensive Freshman of the Year in his first season, led the Sun Devils in tackles, and earned All-American honors. The program built its entire defensive identity around how he played and rewarded him for it every single Saturday. But across 37 career games, he racked up 22 personal fouls. When coaches asked him to pull it back before his junior season, his own defensive coordinator let it slip. He wanted to do the right things, but it took away from how he plays the game. So who exactly was going to fix what the sport itself had built? The coaching staff wasn't trying to fix the aggression. They were managing it because it was working. But come draft time, every NFL front office suddenly had a problem with that same tape. His draft stock was elite, and then it collapsed. Teams passed on him 253 picks deep, and the reason given publicly was simple character concerns. Think about that for a second. The most recruited linebacker in the country was passed over by every single team in the league. Not one of them was Vontaze Burfict. Cincinnati signed him as an undrafted free agent. 2 seasons later, he led the entire NFL with 171 tackles and earned a Pro Bowl selection. The same aggression that made him undraftable made him indispensable. The NFL had a use for him, just not at full market price. So what did teams know that they weren't saying? Before getting into the hits themselves, consider this. The NFL's own discipline system is a for-profit mechanism. Every fine goes not to the victim, but to charity funds. The player pays. The league banks the optics. And each time one of those hits went viral, the debate segments, the reaction packages, the playoff replays cycling on a loop, ad revenue ran through the exact same machine that issued the punishment. So who was the system actually designed to protect? That's the loop Burfict lived inside for 8 straight seasons. But the stats don't tell the story on their own. The pattern does. It started with the smaller infractions flagged for spearing a defenseless receiver, for grabbing and twisting Cam Newton's ankle after the whistle had already blown, for unsportsmanlike conduct stacking up year after year. Each one logged, documented, and moved past. And then the stakes got higher. Le'Veon Bell took a hit from Burfict that tore his MCL, and the league processed it and moved on the following week. Giovanni Bernard took a hit during a practice drill that wasn't supposed to go live, and the league processed that one too. And then came the play that made everything impossible to ignore. It was the 2015 wildcard game against Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati was seconds away from advancing, 22 seconds on the clock, with a full season sitting on that one moment. Antonio Brown went up for a pass, came down, and Burfict drove his shoulder directly into the crown of Brown's helmet. Brown hit the ground and didn't get up, concussed on the spot. He missed the divisional round. The Bengals drew the flag, the Steelers kicked the field goal, and Cincinnati's entire season ended right there.
To Vontaze Burfict, and yes.
Oh my goodness.
Brown didn't need long to process it. On the Dan Patrick Show, he summed it up in 3 words. He's an idiot. He added that in that situation, Burfict and Pac-Man Jones cost them the game. And that was just one play. The hit carried a $502,941 penalty, clipped, packaged, and replayed across every sports network for weeks. The money went into a fund, and what it generated on the other side of that machine was worth considerably more. And what changed after that? The cycle reset. He served the suspension, came back, and in 2018 was hit with a $112,000 fine in a single week for 2 separate players in the same game. 2 hits, 2 penalties, and the season kept going. Now, here's what that record never captured. While Burfict was delivering those hits week after week, his brain was absorbing this same kind of contact on every snap going the other direction. Dr. Lee Goldstein of Boston University was direct. The concussion is the red herring here. Research shows that subconcussive hits, the kind that never pull a player from the sideline, still deposit damage silently, snap after snap, season after season. He wasn't just inflicting damage, he was absorbing it. In 2019, after a hit on Colts tight end Jack Doyle, Burfict was suspended for the remainder of the season. 12-game suspension, making it the longest suspension in NFL history for an on-field hit. Was that accountability, or the league finally deciding he was no longer useful? More than 4,500 former players had filed suit, many of them suffering from dementia, depression, and Alzheimer's, accusing the league of concealing what it knew about brain injuries while rushing players back onto the field. And had that case gone to trial, depositions from league officials and team doctors would have entered the public record under oath. Whatever the NFL knew about brain trauma, and whenever it knew it, was weeks away from becoming public knowledge. But here's where it gets interesting. The NFL paid $765 million to make it go away. The settlement was later upheld at over $1 billion, and by 2023, it had paid out more than $1.1 billion to former players and their families. Not once did the NFL admit the disease was real. The depositions never happened. The documents stayed sealed. Players got payments. The league got silent. And what exactly did that silence protect? And here is what the science actually showed. A Boston University study of 376 brains donated by deceased NFL players found 345 had CTE, which is over 91%. And the profile that keeps appearing across those cases is the same. The more contact, the longer the career, the worse the outcome. Players like Burfict, classified as violent offenders by the league, were also the players absorbing the most subconcussive contact per game. The discipline system flagged them publicly on one side. The medical framework missed them completely on the other. The concussion protocol covers what it can see: a diagnosed event, a visible collision, or a player pulled from the sideline. What it was never built to measure is what builds invisibly, snap after snap, across an entire career. Not just the headline hits, but the routine tackles, the blocks absorbed at the second level, the practice reps where nobody throws a flag and nobody comes off the field. Burfict played a decade in that gap. By December 2018, he had suffered his 7th documented concussion, the 2nd in a single month. 2 concussions in 30 days. Each one raising the risk of what comes next for a brain that never fully had time to recover. Burfict himself said it best in retirement: "I think a lot about how the world sees me. That bothers me. It bothers me a lot. 7 documented concussions across 8 professional seasons. A number that almost certainly undercounts what actually happens, and that is what this game does to the players who absorb the most of it. The system built the weapon, then discarded it. Every roster in the NFL had one. A player whose name alone changed how an opposing offense called routes over the middle, one whose reputation traveled through an opposing locker room faster than any scouting report. The league didn't just tolerate that role, teams built defensive schemes around it, scouted specifically for it, and put it on highlight reels every Sunday. In Cincinnati, Burfict filled that role for 7 seasons. Jerseys sold, highlight packages ran. The discipline system created the illusion of accountability while the marketing machine ran in parallel. When those same hits started costing the league reputationally, the discipline record stopped being a deterrent. It became the exit documentation. But the players on the other side of those hits didn't get an exit. Antonio Brown missed a divisional round game because of that wild card collision, and he's connected it to something far larger since. The same thing I walked off the field for, that I didn't want to get CTE, is the same thing they put on me. Giovanni Bernard took a hit during a drill that wasn't supposed to go live. The kind of moment that tells you the aggression didn't stay between the lines. And Jack Doyle, whose collision in Oakland triggered the longest on-field suspension in league history, was simply the last name on a list the league had been building for 8 years. Accountability means accounting for both sides of the hits. The NFL's system has never done that. And here's where it stops being comfortable to just watch. The fans who watched that wildcard replay and shared it, the media outlets that ran the reaction segment and booked a follow-up the next morning, the sponsors whose ads played in the break right after the flag came down, none of them were standing outside of it. The question isn't just what the NFL did, it's what we funded by watching. We opened with 15 fines and suspensions. The answer? The NFL didn't build Burfict to stop him, it built him to use him. The discipline record was the price of admission, not a deterrent. If this kind of reporting matters to you, hit that like button, comment on what you want us to cover next, and subscribe for more stories like this. You won't want to miss them.